Hi, I'm Randy Nesse from the Center for Evolutionary Medicine at Arizona State University. My guest today is Zaneta Thayer, and she is talking about plasticity, but not just plasticity, stress and its impact on health. Where are you now, Zane?
I'm at the University of Colorado, Denver.
And what department are you in?
Department of Anthropology.
But you're an anthropologist who studies hormones.
I am, yeah. Anthropologists study all sorts of interesting things.
Okay. And a lot of your studies have been in New Zealand, is that right?
They have, yeah. So I did my dissertation research in New Zealand, and I'm continuing to work there.
Right. And with a very diverse population, I understand.
It is, yeah. So Auckland is actually a really interesting city. It's about 40% immigrant. And if you look at immigrants and children of immigrants, it's actually 58% of the population. So yeah, it's a city that's undergone a lot of relatively recent rapid demographic shifts. There's a lot of increasing economic inequality. So it's a really good place for someone like me to ask questions related to how social inequalities can create health inequalities.
So there have been lots of studies showing that people who are less advantaged in their societies have poorer health outcomes. How strong are those effects?
They're actually pretty strong and really consistent. So one of the best known studies is the Whitehall study from England.
Right.
And what makes that study really important and interesting is the fact that it's a study of predominantly white male British civil servants who were followed over, I think it was a 30-year time period. And what the researchers were interested in understanding was how variation in occupational grade related to risk for mortality across time. And what makes that study a very good one is that all the study participants were predominantly white male and all had access to health insurance. And what the researchers found was that individuals who had higher occupational grades, so administrators, for example, had a lower risk of mortality across time than individuals with lower occupational grades.
So the stress of being an administrator didn't make people sicker?
Yeah, you know, a lot of the early research on stress and health focused on the executive syndrome,
The
if you
executive
will.
monkeys, right.
Yeah. But now we've realized that being lower on the social hierarchy, if you will, can also have a lot of stressors. But it depends on, of course, what the hierarchy's like. So actually another anthropologist by the name of Robert Sapolsky has done a lot of really awesome work amongst baboons.
Right.
Yeah.
Know it well, right. So what are the possible mechanisms by which being lower in a social hierarchy might harm your health?
So there's obviously a lot of structural inequalities that can be impacting health. So, you know, nutrition, differential exposure to pollutants, factors like this. But in addition, it seems like there's also psychosocial stress pathways that can contribute. So, you know, feelings of inequality can activate the stress hormone axis chronically in a way that could actually negatively impact health.
So what do high levels of cortisol do if they're ongoing?
The idea is that chronically high levels of stress hormones can actually impact your reproductive functioning, can impact your growth, can negatively impact your immune functioning, can inhibit mental function, memory, things like this. There's a lot of really negative effects associated with chronically high cortisol levels.
So a lot of things that happen early in life or even in utero influence an individual for the rest of life. Is that right?
That's right.
We call that plasticity, or what do we call that?
Well, so we can think about them as critical periods of development, but the reason why there are critical periods of development is that organisms, we think, have actually evolved to be plastic, that is to say malleable, in early development. And
so they're monitoring certain things about the environment and shifting their development in response to that?
That's the idea, yeah. And so the notion is that organisms have actually evolved to be sensitive to early environmental experience and allow them to, in order to allow them to modify their growth and development of other physiological systems in a way to allow them to be better adapted.
So what's an example of something in the environment that you'd monitor and shift in a way that is good for you?
So an example might be nutrition. So if you know that you're living in an environment where nutrition is very scarce,
right,
it would make more sense to downregulate your growth trajectory so that you don't overshoot.
Because there aren't enough calories there to make a big body.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
you might as well make a small body.
Exactly. So you don't want to be growth stunted, right? It's a very bad thing. And so, but obviously it's good to be as big as possible. So you want to just modify your growth trajectory so that you can be as big as possible in the ecology you're living in without.
So does that happen reliably with a lot of animals, that not enough nutrition? Is it like in utero or in the early days of life, or when?
We think that the sensitive period extends, a lot of times for humans, we say, I think it's 2,000 days. So prenatally as well as early postnatal period are all periods of a lot of sensitivity.
So a mother who decides that she's fearful about her child becoming obese and doesn't give her child all that much food in the first couple of years, what happens?
So that may actually cause individuals potentially to have a slower growth trajectory, which then, if they were to live in an environment of nutritional plenty, could cause those individuals to be at increased risk for developing obesity, right?
So not enough food early might lead to obesity later.
Could be, yeah. And so you do see that a lot. Individuals who experience catch-up growth are actually, so individuals who are stunted, who then grow very quickly because they get a lot more nutrition, are actually at increased risk for chronic disease in adulthood.
So babies who are born later than other babies apparently have special health risks. Is that right?
They do, yeah, both in the short and the long term. So, you know, most people are familiar with the idea that being born preterm or being born low birth weight could mean a lot of short-term health effects. But we're increasingly coming to understand that being born small can actually have a lot of long-term health impacts as well.
So you've worked with Peter Gluckman, who's one of the leaders in this kind of area of research, and he's suggested that it might be actually useful for babies to adjust their physiology if they haven't had enough nutrition early in life.
That's the idea, right? So, and it's consistent with this whole notion of developmental plasticity. So again, organisms have evolved to be sensitive to their environmental conditions and want to match their growth and development accordingly in order to be best adapted to the ecology you're actually born into. And you know, environments change on more rapid timescales than can be necessarily accommodated vis-a-vis genetic change and natural selection. So developmental plasticity is more of is more sensitive to environments that change more rapidly than those that changes that can be accommodated through natural selection.